All right, guys, welcome to a very special episode of Coffee is for Closers. We finally have managed to deconflict diaries long enough to get Eli Wilde on the program. Welcome, Eli.
Welcome, buddy.
What's up, buddy? Glad to be here, bro.
This is exciting. So yeah, today what we're going to go over is, well, who knows? We don't know. We haven't planned it, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. So
I feel like
cue
this
the
is
intro.
just going to be a rabbit hole.
Yeah. It's
right,
it's long overdue. And just before we even starting this, we're getting into so many open loops, which is a technique.
Here we go. Here we go.
You know,
Exactly.
a lot of threads everywhere, but it's about to get tight knit. You know,
There we go. Metaphors. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm congruent today. I've been told I got the bulls, like the double bulls going. So
He just took off his Lakers hat. So
exactly. Yeah.
If you listen to this podcast, you will make your first million within 3 years. I'm going to repeat that. You will make $1 million within 3 years of the first episode you listen to. We don't want pikers. We're not here to save the manatees. We're here to make podcasts. You really want this. You listen and review.
Put that coffee down.
So yeah, man. So super excited. So I don't know if people like really know. Like we brought you on to help train Sales Sniper. You were like the first person that I ever encountered in the high ticket closing room.
Wow,
First.
that's awesome.
And so like I remember I was sitting down and I like my journey was I just did fitness sales, like you know that. And then from there I did like a marketing sales. I did really well in that. I remember I asked for $300 commission from a $7,500 program. And they laughed at me and said, "Oh, we'll give you 400." And I called Jimmy and I was like, "These chumps are going to pay me $400 to do a phone call." I was like, "This is crazy." Then from there, I sold 15 out of 16 calls. Then from there, went to like a business coaching offer where I made like 12 grand in commissions on the first week. And I was like, "Jimmy, we're done with fitness. We're doing something else." And then I signed up to the very first 21-day sales mentor thing.
Yeah,
Which is
Taylor.
where, it's just where I saw you and Taylor and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" So
it's cool.
that was the first thing I saw.
Then you went all in, man. Your evolution's been amazing. I remember because I was coaching you and your team a little bit, and I said this best stuff I actually got from this guy Jeremy. And I told Jeremy when I did a thing in my Facebook group, I said, "You're going to make $1 million off of me promoting you," because nobody knew Jeremy, and he'll make at least that. You know, just from you, he's going to make probably more than that this year. So yeah, man, I've been collecting mentors and bits and metaphors and analogies from Tony and like 100 other people. So it's been great seeing how you lead your team. And now I'm learning stuff from you, man.
Yeah. Like I think we've gone very niche, which is good. Yeah. I'm a fan of like, just kind of being good. That's why like, I was always, even in the army, I was like, I'll just do like one thing and do it well. You know, that was kind of my thing. I'm not a person, I'm so like singularly focused. I'm not a person who can multitask and do different things at once. And I like to kind of stay in my lane. You know what I mean? So kind of just do my thing, try and do it really well. But I think like one thing that I admire about you that you've done really well is you've been able to kind of like go into so many different things and adapt it into what you do and kind of pull from all different situations and people. And like Tony, like I gotta ask, man, like, cause I don't think I've ever asked you, like, what was it like the first time you went out with Tony and watched that dude pitch a giant room?
For me, it was like, and going back to the, I'm sure we're going to touch on the congruency piece. That was part of my power in selling, but I saw Tony speak at something called the Learning Annex. Now there's something called Success Resources, but they would do these seminars with like 30, 40,000 people. And it was 2 days. It'd be like, the headliner was actually Donald Trump at the event I went to. It was 2005, Susie Orman, Robert Kiyosaki, all these people. And it was like a lot of like pitch fest from stage. And at the time I'd been like in a really bad place. I was a struggling actor. I had some ups and downs, was pretty down. So I was into self-development, working on my confidence, and I found NLP and it really aligned with me. And then somebody said, "You should check out Tony Robbins." I was like, "Who's Tony Robbins?" Got the book, then got the CDs. And then like a week later, he was doing this, a speech at this thing. It was $97, which was a stretch for me. And he was supposed to speak for 2 hours. He spoke for 4.5. And at the end of it, he's like, "I coach, Michael Jordan, all these people, and President of the United States. If you got anything out of these 4 effing hours, spend 4 effing days with me, I'll change your effing life or give you your effing money back." And he was so certain. And most of these other guys, other than Trump was pretty savage, and he would engage with the audience. everybody else kind of had like this canned pitch, and Tony was like running out in the audience and grabbing people. And man, it was 46,000 people at the event, and Tony's a big guy, but I was all the way in the back. So Tony was like a dot on a screen, and I could feel his energy. And you know, it's interesting now, he doesn't do any of the selling at his events. And, you know, even people hiring you guys, they kind of want there's like the coaching hat and the sales hat. And it's, you know, people have a weird aversion to sales. So he, you know, outsources that. But I mean, he was savage, and he did a lot of these analogies. Some of them I've kind of, you know, made my own and everything, but it's really, it's an interesting thing because, you know, and one of the principles I teach is, as you know, people do things for emotional reason. And he's got that one tool I'll talk about, the triad, where how do we get people into what we call the buying state? And pre-handle their limiting buying beliefs. In his book, or his program that he originally did in like the 80s, it was called Mastering Influence, or it was called Power to Influence. You know, he talked about urbans, lurbans, and drab. And so he's like creating this, you know, this association to, and breaking down all the limiting buying beliefs. And before I lose that train of thought, urban, lurban, drab. Urban, emotional reasons to buy now. Lurban, logical reasons to buy now. Drab, dominant reasons to avoid buying. And so he's like doing all of this, and he's doing the NLP, but just getting people in like a frenzy. And, you know, people are just on fire and providing a real experience.
It's a good thing he seems like a good dude, because like that power for evil is like, I mean, that's what Hitler did, right? Like he just like, he was so charismatic, not to go dark, but got him into a frenzy and then just made people do stuff.
It's crazy the things you can get people to do when they buy into that. I mean, just look at every cult. All right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's interesting with Tony though. He would like go out into the audience and there'd be like somebody suicidal or depressed, and he'd do an intervention right there on somebody. You're like, is this real? And sometimes they would take hours, and he would just be right with that person, so present. Like he's crying, that person's crying, like 20,000 people start crying. And it's like I've never seen anything like it. And that's a whole tool within itself. So, you know, it's interesting. And one of the things that I did that made me really successful, because I wanted to be like Tony, I would be in an environment, could be like a used car lot, or, you know, it's interesting with the online model, people usually book a call, they raise their hand, I have a problem. But I was going to companies. People don't go to work to spend money. They go there to make money. And I'm in there, and people didn't want to hear what I had to say, didn't want to buy anything, didn't want some motivational speaker. And so I had to really train a lot of these tools. But if I had somebody really resistant, it could be even the boss, I would do things within the room to isolate people, or I'd connect with somebody. Sometimes, like when I was new, I'd find the friendly eyes, and I might do an intervention with that person right there. And people would be like, holy shit.
Who is
right
this
there
guy?
by an experience. Yeah. And also if somebody was challenging me, I would go really deep with that person. And, you know, people are like, man, look at the balls on this guy. And being and authentic and kind, you know, and, you know, just really like digging in. And for me, it's like, what was really driving me, of course I wanted to make money. Of course I wanted to be number one, but I had this sense of congruency in this mission. Like I wanted people to have an experience that I had, because I really did think it would change their life. And also I was committed to growth. And so there was a whole team of like 10 salespeople initially. It was about 12, and we all had the same job. And it was not an easy job. And this is, you know, 16 years ago, Tony wasn't famous like he is now. It was like Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, all these other people trying to sell stuff at real estate companies and mission-based companies. But, you know, there'd be really shitty meetings. And I remember Tony saying this, he took other people's meetings. And so there would be meetings I had to drive like 2 hours, and I wouldn't even make any money because I was taking somebody's meeting, and I have to like give them the commission. I was like, I'll do it anyway, because my goal wasn't just to make money. I wanted to get good. And I was like, you need reps. And so I was like, I just need to start speaking more. I need to do more calls. And so I was like, whatever it takes.
It's so true. I think like people really underestimate volume. Like, man, volume is like, it's the key. It's funny. We got a video, because we're looking for some setters, for full-time setters. So I put it out there, and I sent everyone to who's like our prototype setter, right? He's the savage, but the kid's hungry. And I mean, like literally when we first met him, we had to send food to his house.
Wow.
right? Like
Literally hungry. Literally hungry.
Like literally, like he came to us and he was like, we haven't really, like, I think, he had like $97 in his pocket. You know what I mean? I'm talking like, I think he said he had 87 cents in the bank at one stage. And then, so I was like, sweet, you're on a bass, you're on this, you're on this. He like pawned guitars to do some courses and like just a real like go. And now he's doing well. Do you know what I mean? Like he's closing deals. He's doing really well. He's removing himself from some situations. But like when he was like, yeah, man, like we need some, I was like, fuck. So I was like, where's the nearest Safeway? We'll just get it all delivered to your house. Like, let's just do that for the next few weeks and then you should be fine. And then, you know what I mean? So, but like he sent me a video and it was like, this is what I'm going to talk to him about. And it was about like hunger. And it was about like, if you're like, he's done, I think he started with us in September. He's done, I think it was like 9,000 calls in that time.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And so, you know, some of it's sort of cold calling, some of it's like appointment setting, you know, it's a combination of everything, but it's just like that amount of reps, like it's very difficult to replicate that if you're just like, you know, doing the whole, I'm going to quit my job and become a closer, you know, like that sort of thing. Like you have to start there because you need interactions. And that's what I tell people, like, because like take me and Marco, for example, we have really good close rates. We're very consistent, but there's like, we cold leads for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like we just cold leads. I called hundreds and hundreds. I was doing hundreds of dials every day for years, just because that's how I thought it was done. I literally didn't know there was anything as an appointment funnel until about 2 years ago. And then I was like, oh, this is way better. Like that. But if you started there, you're starting in a massive disadvantage. It's like you had to go around all these difficult situations, you know, whereas if the hardest kind of sales environment you've ever been in is someone setting a call for you, it's like, oh, that's a tough place to start from, man. Because
when I went to the Tony Robbins event at that thing, I used my rent money to sign up for UPW. Like you know, and when I went to it, I was like all in. And he also says you can go there for the first day and a half and get your money back if it's not everything, but that's kind of how they get you because it's amazing. And I figured maybe I'd get my money back or whatever, but I was like involved in, you know, I was there and I was just all in, you know, there's like that all in moment. And I was so hungry. After the event though, Tony talks about it's not your lack of resources, like money or time. It's your lack of resourcefulness. And the ultimate resource is human emotion, hunger, drive, like the most successful people in the world. And of course, like I sell courses, you sell courses, we all have courses, but you figure like the first person to figure it out, they didn't have a course. They had a commitment to do whatever it takes. And it's like Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots moving forwards, only backwards, but somebody's got to have a vision and hunger to push through everything. Then they reverse engineer it. And that's the teaching. A lot of people in the space now are kind of, you know, regurgitating other people's stuff and all of that. But the first person in any industry, it's like that drive and that resource. I used to always tell this story about a guy that I met in Chicago. He had this dream of going to the Olympics, and he made it there. But the crazy thing was he had lost his legs, and he ran a race in the Olympics without legs. Other people have legs, and you know they can't get themselves to walk around the block to lose weight. Yeah. And it's like that thing. Getting people into that state is amazing. And we say that it takes three main things to make somebody successful. Hunger is number one, and you can't teach that. Can't. Second is a vision that's bigger than yourself, because you'll make some money, you'll take care of your needs, and then you'll stop. And then the third thing is strategies. And strategies are important, but you know, that's the least important of everything, because if you're like, I'm going to effing figure this out, then you reverse engineer it. So strategies can definitely help and can change everything, but it's honestly the least important.
Yeah, one of my favorite analogies that I've been sort of using a lot lately in like coaching and sales and stuff like that is a bear chasing a person. You know, like who gives up first? The bear is just wanting to eat something. It's wanting to be satiated. The consequences for the person are so catastrophic. So it's like you're running away from something so much faster. Like I had a conversation with Ryan Serhnant, one of our clients, and he talks about this moment called the wall, which is like the moment that you'll never go back to. It's like, and it's constantly shifting, but it's like, there is no going behind the wall. For him, it was 2005 and he didn't have enough money to buy food for dinner. And and I mean, look at him now, 16 years later, the dude's worth like, you know, $80 million. Right. And it was just like,
that's amazing. That guy's special. That guy's
man, he is a driven human being. Like I speak to him like probably once a month, and he is incredibly driven. He gave me some KPIs. He'll be on the podcast in a couple months. He gave me some KPIs I got to hit, and then he'll come on the podcast. But
one guy's commission check I'd love to get, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. You meet somebody like that. Good looking guy, could probably model, be a spokesperson. You see people, I lived in Los Angeles for a while, and you see some people like they get their needs met or they're modeling and they get all this attention. I'll touch on some of the things that have really shifted me. And obviously having Tony Robbins as a mentor, 6 human needs, like what he's doing to turn around those interventions. Kind of my whole thing was, I was like, if he can turn around a suicide, I can turn around a sale, really figuring out what drives somebody. And most people, they want to be significant. They want to get attention. They want likes, they want money. But once they get that, they kind of lose their drive. Some dude like that, you know what I mean? It's pretty amazing. A guy like that just keeps on pushing so hard.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing because like I speak to him a bit, and his motto is expansion always in all ways, right? And so he was like, we will sell everything to everyone. Whatever you need to do to make more sales, you tell me and I'll do it. And like, I'll tell him like, hey man, we need a webinar. He's like, yeah, sweet. 2 days later, he's got a crew of 16 people shooting in 4 different cameras in 8K and having it all professionally scripted out. And they're shooting a 3-hour webinar. Like it's done. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the level of savagery that he operates at. And I remember I came to him once. It was a really good lesson because we had to restructure the sales because I basically, like, I helped build that program. That program didn't have anything. They were just like, we have an idea. And I was like, okay, I know coaching. So I was like, I can help you build the coaching program out and what you need and do the hiring and all that kind of stuff. So we built that program together. But he sort of came to me and I was like, hey, we need to restructure the sales. So I need to like hit the pause button for a couple of weeks. He's like, no. I was like, well, I need to do this. He goes, no, when I sell a building, I don't like tear the building down to build the building again because I don't like the fucking bedroom configuration. I fix the bedrooms on the top while I sell the ones on the bottom. He goes, you will build the new team and manage the current team, and then we'll have a changeover. And I was like, okay, boss. I was like, but it was such a, like, it was a good moment because like, for me, I was kind of like going, well, this is the easiest option for me to do this. And he was like, I don't give a fuck what the easiest option is, man. Like I want to maintain sales and I want to put all the infrastructure that we need in place, but we can do both at the same time and you will just do it. And I was like, oh, okay. And we just did it. I was like, fuck. And I was like, oh man, like that's a good lesson for me. I was like, I rarely do it, but it's like, that was just the easiest option that we had in front of us. I was like, but you know what I mean? And the way that he said it was like, no, it was so like, I was like, oh, okay, dad. It was a very like, I was like, okay, good lesson. And that guy's my age. Like we're the same age. I think we're like 4 or 5 months apart. And he's, he's so successful and so driven, but also like, he's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy. So he like, and also he gets up at 4 a.m. He does workouts every single day at 4 a.m. He sends like emails to his team and his clients, like the coaching clients at like 4:30 a.m. while he's in the gym. You know what I mean? Like getting after it. So like, when you wake up, if you're in the States, like, oh, Ryan's made $5 million today and done a workout. What the fuck have I done? Yeah. So he really does like lead by that example, which for me was a big, like, I actually paid the $10,000 to have the meeting with him because I wanted like a proper strategy meeting on how to like lead the team effectively. And he like gave me the strategies on how to lead the team. And I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And
your team.
Yeah. So it was like, nobody works for you. Everybody works with you. Because as long as you can remember that, like that is a huge thing that you do. And you need to be the guy in front. Like you need to be the one who is the best and leads by the example, because we have very similar models, right? Like the agency model, the sales agency model is almost identical to the brokerage model. Right. And the most successful brokerages are built by the extremely successful agents because then they have the systems and the structures. And then it takes a long time to where like you don't want to be in the game still, because you have to have that lead by example until you can build enough people up below you who are now the new leaders to then just lead from the top. So it's very interesting. Like when I made the connection between the two business models, I was like, oh, he's the guy who I need to pay the money to.
I have a couple of resources that I could send you. I mean, I've trained, thousands of companies and a lot of stuff. Like I did some training at Salesforce, which is, they do $9 billion a year. Yeah. And so it's interesting. Some of those systems,
just a little company called Salesforce.
I trained a lot of their different, I was doing my Tony Robbins thing, but they asked me to always expand, and I got to, it's interesting, this sales game. I'm always coaching people, and I have people that I coach privately and all that. And I was saying to some young guys the other day, I said, even in this high ticket game, being on the phone, there are things around the sale. So, like working out, but personal relationships, your standards, like the sub communication, because some opportunities come. And, you know, it's interesting with real estate, for example, probably 80% of my market that I've sold to has been real estate agents. And I'm like you, it's like, I'm selling to salespeople. So I can't use like the feel, felt, found. I had to really dig into their world a little bit, and they were going to test me on that. But, you know, it's just a different way of thinking that you have to align with these people. And real estate people, you know, that world, so many things I could go into, but real estate people, for example,
very interesting world.
Yeah. You know, it's like, because I remember saying because I would go in there and I'd say, real estate people, for example, though, they need to be entrepreneurial, have their own marketing and leads and systems, but they have employee mindset. Yeah. And so they need to be entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, I'm waiting for leads and all of that. But I said to people, I'd say, like, most people go, there's a guy named Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry, which is his father. It's the premier sales training for real estate agents in America. Yeah. And I'd say to him, I would start my presentation. I'd be talking and I'd do all my thing and I'm connecting with the audience. And I'd say, look, all of you here, you all have a similar presentation. Let's say there's, John up the street and you got to do a listing presentation for this person, and say 3 of you, this is going to happen. 3 of you are going to get that same listing appointment, and you're going to do a presentation pretty much the same, and they're going to choose one of you. Why will they choose the one? Same word, same presentation. And when I worked for Tony, we had the same script, same price point, same product, same everything. I would often outsell my peers by 5x. It's like they're doing, my last cycle, I had 700 high ticket sales in a couple months, and I was working part-time, and the next top person in the company had 200, working twice as much as me.
Yeah. Difference.
Yeah. It's like, and I would always rate myself on a scale of not 1 to 10, but 1 to Tony. Cause I'd be like, man, Tony could have got that person. It's like, now we listen to Jeremy. I'm like, Jeremy probably could have got that, or this person, it would just drive me crazy. Like, I wonder if that person could have done it. So I was like, I'm all in on everything.
I have the same mentality. I go, someone could have sold that person. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that they're better than you. It just means that they are better at that particular puzzle. Yeah. Because every sales conversation or interaction, whatever it is, it's just a puzzle that needs to be put together. And that's why I like sales, and why I think anyone can be good at sales, because it's like, just start from the edges, man, and work your way in. Yeah. And like, the more you do that, the more it happens, the more natural it becomes. And you just start to see the patterns before they get there.
The analogies, crazy. Like the puzzle, you start here,
And that's really it. Cause I was terrible at sales, like naturally not good at it. When I used to do it, I was bad. My business partner, when I opened my first gym, was the guy who was like the good at sales guy. I was the marketing guy. So I wrote all the copy, did all the ads, and I was the one that generated the leads, and he would sell them. And when I tried to sell, it was a backup, and I was terrible at it. Because even though like my personality is so straightforward, I really struggled to like say what needed to be said in order to kind of like really put the truth.
It's interesting. You got that shirt on. I remember like the first maybe like half dozen times I talked to you though, and I said this to you, because there's like this nuance, and you picked up the Jeremy stuff really well. Some people, their sales go down because of all the neutral language and they lose that authority piece. Yeah. But you got like, there's an external stance and an internal stance. You're like a bull, it's like you got this certainty and you're like just really strong, and you can use those softeners and in the tonality and stuff, but
it works very well. Yeah. But if you're already soft, and it can be a real problem.
It messes people up. And speaking of another analogy related to the bear one, I meant to interject this. You might have heard this before. It's like in Africa, in the whatever it's called, the plains or whatever. Yeah. Is this savannah? Yeah. The lion gets up like first
Pride Rook.
That's it. The lion gets up, and if it's late to get up and doesn't get a head start, it'll starve to death. And the impala, gets up, and if it doesn't get moving, it's going to get eaten and it's going to die. So the analogy is, doesn't matter if you're the impala or the lion, when the sun gets up, you better get moving or you're dead. It doesn't matter like who you think you are. It's like it's a race out there, and it's not like I'm this or that. It's just, you better get moving. It's like, aside from all the strategies and all these things, it's like that mindset, that commitment, that certainty is what's really going to make somebody figure it out.
Brings an interesting thing, because like what's your like, where are you going? Because obviously you're a hardworking guy. Like where's Eli Wilde in 10 years time?
It's interesting, because there's like the sales thing, and I connect with Marco about it, and They had me do the sales pitch for Business Mastery for Tony Robbins, and it did, multiple 8 figures. Not because of me, because of the brand, the system, and all of that. But that's been my background, and so it's interesting. Your selling style, as a side note, is very similar to a friend of mine. His name's Brett. He just left. He was stayed here last night. He's done roofing stuff. I've got another friend. We're kind of coming together with. Long story short, I've seen Tony do all the stuff with Business Mastery, and he says he owns like 60 companies or something like that. It's not like he's managing them every day. He comes in, they do some consultative stuff, but long story very short is this: COVID has made things amazing for me being home and being able to work, but I love being face to face. All my business has been face to face, eye to eye, doing events, and I'll do that online. But we're getting into, me and some friends are creating like a sales accelerator where we'll accelerate the sales for companies using our systems and processes, and I'll write the scripts and we'll manage the teams, all these things, but we want ownership of those companies. The first kind of company that we're doing, it's fine that I'm saying this because we're just kind of solidified it this weekend, and some last minute stuff, some negotiations still happening. But the first company we're going into, first industry, is solar. And so we'll have a team of killers, and I've learned so much about lead generation online. It's killing it. And so I've seen people that are very average at sales making 7 figures a year. And so we'll build a team. And the long-term play is for me to create like a really iconic sales brand. I'm actually doing a training tomorrow for a guy to work on my personal brand and all these things, because I would have been fine my whole life being like the behind the scenes guy for Tony Robbins. I don't want to be famous or any of that. But now I'm like kind of embodying it, and like I'm going to start doing YouTube. Like you guys, I'm going to do all these things, do the marketing, do some things around me, but it's going to be kind of like Elon Musk and Tesla, do some things so I can promote this company that'll be a sales accelerator. And one of my like kind of strong suits has been relationship building. I pretty much know everybody in the industry. Nobody knows who I am, but all the people that are worth knowing, like, I mean, I could text Tony Robbins right now, or this person, or Ty Lopez or something. Like I know all these people, and I've spoken on their behalf, or I spoke at Ty's house a bunch of times. Like eventually to create some of this draw around myself, but also some of the processes, some of the unique mechanisms that we can market to, and then eventually put these in companies and get a back end, get a percentage ownership, and do exit. So I want to learn all of that stuff. I've seen Tony talk about it, Business Mastery, and I have friends that have exited companies for like 5, 6, 7, 18 times multiple. And I'm like, man, that's interesting. That's exciting. So that's a long-term play. And I've got some friends and mentors right now that are just a lot smarter than me and have been doing this stuff for a while.
That's the people to hire. That's
well, that's the people. I'm like really fortunate. We're partnering. So I put money in, and we're peers, and I'm getting to sit like a fly on the wall in these conversations that are like, wow, and, just talking about concepts that have just been foreign to me. I've heard of them, but really seeing it happen has been great. So that's a long-term play, just buying and selling companies, accelerating them, putting in the sales processes, dialing in systems. And then if you can get ownership, it's one thing to ask for commission or, say $10,000 or $20,000 for coaching. Yeah. If you can get that, it's a different strategy. And
yeah, we got equity in 7th level. That was.
Did you really?
Play.
Yeah. We're taking equity in a lot of the companies that we work for, because we do something very similar where we'll come in, obviously give them that sales stuff, but a lot of the guys that want to scale massively, they need more than a sales force because they don't understand how to use it. They don't understand how to integrate that with their marketing, how to integrate with their sales process. So we usually come in and say, okay, well, you can pay us commission, we'll do sales for you, or we can negotiate some equity, and we'll come in and we will run the entire thing from that perspective.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, like, I've scaled businesses to 8 figures. So like, I understand like the mechanisms behind the actual business. I have the business acumen, not like, it's getting better and better and better. And there's definitely some certain areas that I need to work on, which we're kind of looking at now. But in terms of like that visionary role of sort of like looking at the business in different sort of avenues that we can go down to make money and sort of diversify and look for the profit margins, like that's sort of what I do well, which is why we were able to get Sales Sniper. Like in January, like of last year, we pretty much just started, like Sales Sniper really only started properly in like October of 2018.
Yeah.
And we were doing like 20 or 30 grand a month in January. And then we did like 400 grand a month in December.
We'd only really got a roll on about a month before you came on and started doing some training and stuff with us. It's probably
Yeah.
when we first started getting into it. We've also got some pretty crazy ideas business wise that we've been speaking about lately.
I'm gonna buy a fucking $2 million boat. I got some ideas, bro.
Sales
sniper, SAILS. It's gonna be a fucking. I got some ideas, man.
Jeremy and I talked about partnering together like years and years ago. I had a sales agency and I kind of just removed myself from it, but we were going to do like a corporate thing and we were back and forth. You know, it's interesting. Jeremy's so good. And I bought like 5-6 years ago, I bought one of his things and I was like, how does nobody know this guy? And so I'd say actually now you and I probably know the NEPQ stuff, not as good as Jeremy, obviously, but outside of him,
anybody else.
Yeah. So I really mastered it. And, you know, and I reached out to him. I was like, man, this has really helped me out a lot. And nobody knew him. We talked about a year and a half ago, about a year and a half ago. And I said, I'd do whatever to help push him out there. And because it's just so good. And, you know, I'll talk to him more about some other things. Maybe we all do some things because I'm getting in more into the one-to-many model we were talking about. And for me, kind of one of my taglines as well is that sales should be not transactional, transformational. And Tony's kind of on his way out, you know, kind of going back to what am I going to be doing in 10 years? I think Tony's maybe 3 years max. I think he's going to be done doing the events. I've got some other friends that do transformational type work. There's Landmark Forum, MITT, where people really get like an experience. And with sales, you deal with so much rejection at times. You take things personally. You shouldn't, but we do. And so I want to do these events where I teach sales skills, but really focus on the mindset and the leadership. I really do believe it's a lot mindset. My stuff's mindset heavy. Not like scripting, all that stuff. So, you know, we want to do these events and, you know, we're going to have a board break. Well, we're going to do the first one like a month. And so we're testing some stuff now. I'll do a small pop-up one, but people will get like a box kind of like this sent to them. And like this one has like a water bottle, a journal, all these things in it, swag bag, and give them some really cool stuff and only be like $100. And then we'll do a board break on the first day and we'll, you know, just some really cool stuff. I've got some friends that teach like hypnosis and we're going to do like, you know, just some of these kind of more emotional things, but I've seen it and it, you know, just seen it transform people. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I think like as far as pure sales, like for me, NEPQ is a framework. For me, it's the best framework out there. Like it makes so much sense and once you understand it. And then I think you can adapt it to yourself. I think one of the things that people get lost in, and now I actually made an implementation guide for NEPQ. It's like, this is how you implement it properly, because people just do silly things, right? They learn something new and they go like, oh, okay, someone's going to teach me a different way to squat. I'm just going to go on the bar and do my max and figure it out. Right. So like that's why people can sometimes drop, because they're learning concepts they don't understand. And then they get themselves into positions they can't get out of because like, essentially they're trying to put the puzzle together backwards. They're starting with the middle, but you know, and so like what ends up happening is like they end up losing their authority and all these kind of things happen. So I created actually a guide for NEPQ, but like for me, like it was a game changer when I just had like, oh, we had to do this phase, this phase, this phase, this phase, this phase. And then once I kind of got that and it clicked, I was like, oh, sweet, I can push people down. Yes, sweet, man. I can sort of push people down this sales cycle and then listen for the tonal cues to make sure that I'm getting the right answers. And then it was like, when I figured out how to go this is the right answer or no, it's not. And just stay in the saddle until I got the answer. That's when everything clicked and I started going like consistently over 80%. Cause I was like, that's not the answer. Let's circle back. How do I get them deeper?
I'd like to see that.
And go
I'd like to see that. Yeah. It's you know, for me, it's like, I used to hate breaking down sales calls. It's still not my favorite thing, but I've gotten like really good at it. And I train just on that, like these little things over and over again. Two of the master things that I teach, and I'm actually going to do a class on this soon. I got a class here inside of my free Facebook group in 14 minutes, but we teach sensory acuity and behavioral flexibility, like acute sensitivity, like to somebody's tone. There's like, yeah, or yeah, you know, it's like people don't hear stuff because they're focused on the next question and not, you know, feeding things back. And so that little bit, and a lot of it comes from being self-conscious, conscious of yourself, as opposed to being connected. And so you have to kind of disappear and really connect with that person. And so you have to know what you're going to say and know your outcome, know where you want to take somebody, because you're leading somebody. But I always said this, It's like, if I'm trying to lead somebody to a sale, they're going to feel that. So I always said, for me, my target, I wasn't trying to, push somebody to take action or even make a decision. I thought, what precedes actions, decisions? What precedes that are thoughts and feelings. And so all behavior is preceded by an emotion. And so I could say, Matt, well, here's what you might want to think about, or have you stopped to consider this? And so, I have these targets. So I know there's 6 human needs: certainty, uncertainty, connection, significance, growth, contribution. And I'll be able to ferret out somebody's values, like what they really want, and figure out those gaps. And I'm aligning with them, but I'm also pulling apart those gaps, but I'm really trying to get them, I'm clear what I want them thinking and feeling about themselves, about me, about the environment, about the timing. It's like, hey, since we're all home, there's a short window of opportunity. So there's not fake scarcity like, hey, only got 3 spots left. It's like, hey, because there's a real window of opportunity, everybody's coming online right now. And that window is going to, it's like the gold rush. It is going to close. And every day people are coming in, still good now, but you want to be ahead of the curve. Every single day, more and more people are going to be ahead of you, And then you want to hear a really good analogy that I used to use a lot in the seminar? I'd say, I remember it was right around the Olympics. And I'd say, who here likes the Olympics? Who here likes sports? And a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. Say also, I'm like obsessed with that. I love this stuff. And what I think is fascinating is like, you have the best in the world and we all want to be really great, but these people are like so freaking good. They've dedicated their whole entire lives to this outcome. And in the Olympics, you have the person that gets the gold or the first place. And then what separates the first place and the loser, the last place person, say 10th place, is often like a fraction of a second. Could be like a 10th of a second, winner versus loser. And you and I will probably never go to the Olympics. We're probably never going to play professional sports. Business is our sport. Business is our game. And what's interesting is imagine this, imagine there's 2 people, they get all the information and one person takes action and they just run with it. The other person says, oh, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to wait 2 weeks. They come back 2 weeks later. Has the information changed? No. Only thing is they're 2 weeks behind the other person that implemented. And so if you want to guarantee yourself failure, take time to wait and think about everything, you're just always going to be behind. And so people like I'm telling these stories and analogies where it's like, yeah, you got to decide. And so I would do this whole thing anchoring to identity. I did this bit around that book, Think and Grow Rich. I'd say out of all these 17 principles, number one principle that holds people back, the one that they can tell is going to guarantee you success or failure. It's decision-making ability. When you call a company, you ask for the what maker. It's right decision maker. Write that down. And I'd have people write down, I'd say, in business, anybody who can't make a decision is useless. Write that down. People who can't make decisions are useless. And so if you want to connect with decision makers and be in rapport with them, people who are like themselves. So if you want to connect with a decision maker, you have to be a what? And by the end of my talk, people are like, I'm a decision maker, I'm a decision maker, I'm a decision maker. And then at the end, it's pretty hard not to make a decision at the end. Can you been jumping up and down and all this stuff?
Yeah, so that's like people hate when they're like a lack of congruence in what they say and what they do and the whole way through. I think the thing that people screw up when they sell is that they try and point that out in like a contrast and compare method. I think I'm frozen. Oh, sorry. How do you mean? So they try and so people objection handle, they're too combative, right? So I can objection handle someone for an hour and it stays a positive, engaging conversation. Like I've got a call, like I'll send it to you. I sold a guy. I knew what I was doing wasn't going to work. I knew, okay, I can take them through the script and this is not going to work. I'm going to have to objection handle for a long time. So I might as well just get it over with. So I pitched super early and I just do what I called Cardone Smash. I was like, okay, I'm just going to pitch really early. I don't need the information. I know I can get him. I know it's all fear. I can just tell. So I'll pitch super. I objection handle for an hour and then I got him. Right. And it's Hitendra, the guy that's in the Inner Circle program. Right. You probably saw that, right? So
for myself, there was like, when I recognized that's a sensory acuity. But also there's like triggers for myself, like anchors. Like you hear a song, you think you're a high school dance. You smell a perfume, you think your wife. So there's these triggers. And I really condition myself that when I recognize something, I would be able to like flip into a different part of my brain and use a strategy. And so it's like if you have to think about what you're going to say, you're already lost. So it has to be stimulus, response. Yeah. And and really create this frame. But when there'd be that resistance, one of the things, so like you can hear something and it would condition a series of events or an anchor. But I had certain things that I would say to neutralize the situation. Kind of like somebody says, you know, it's some resistance, not a problem. Well, here's what's great. The thing is that I would always say is, well, let's look at the situation together. And even when I would start the call, I would say
it's a huge thing for objection handling, because it's no longer objection handling. It's now
it's like we're
solving a problem. Yeah.
And
it's very
even
important
when I would kind of frame the call or connect with somebody, I'd say, hey, you know, I want to make sure that we maximize our time together. So there's like 3 words, not, hey, I am going to talk to you about my program and your company. So everything from the beginning, we maximize our time together, how we could possibly collaborate to see how we can really get your team up to par, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like us, almost like us, me and him against, you know, his team. I'm talking to a boss or a manager, and it's like, there's usually some conflict with, and I would align with the boss kind of against the team in some ways and say, well, you know, do you have your salespeople, are they prospecting? I'd say you're spending all this money on ads or leads. Are they following up? Are they prospecting? Are they doing this?
Yeah. That's problem finding as well.
What's that?
You know, it's problem finding. I actually sold a B2B deal for 7th Level with a company that makes a lot of money. They make about $22 million a year, and they were converting really well. And I sold them because I basically figured out they were just doing warm leads. They weren't cold calling or door knocking.
Remember,
and
I heard you talk
and they
about
do
that.
solar. And they do solar. It's like, well, dude, you got a door knock. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's, yeah, solar. Yeah, they do solar and one other thing. So they do 2 different things. But
Get yourself
it's super interesting.
and get after it.
Go out there and get after it. You know what I mean? I was like, how did you make your money? Like, how did you build your company? Through door knocking and cold calling. I was like, interesting. He was like, fuck, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, sweet. How do you want to proceed from here? But anyway, but yeah, I think like just going back to that, that combativeness, like getting on the same side of the table and then like not coming after it. So like all the underpinning of my stuff is all about perspective and just what do you need to do to get the outcome that you want? Like, I don't care about you doing the program. It doesn't matter. It's just like, are you making decisions based off the perspective you have? Or are you making the decisions based off the perspective that you want to have? And what series of actions need to be taken, regardless of how difficult they may seem now? What do you need to do? You know, because people don't just end up on Everest. Like there's a series of very difficult actions that have to be taken, but the payoff is worth it for them. And so I don't want to underestimate or undermine the significance or difficulty that making these decisions has. But like, you know, prolonging it doesn't make it any easier. You know, you can stand at the bottom of a giant staircase and look up at it for a very long time before you just decide to take the first step. The staircase doesn't get longer. It doesn't get any shorter, you know? So yeah, and that's sort of like the underpinning of all of my objection handling. And it makes it very uncombative because I can just loop everything back to the one thing, which is, okay, what do you need to do to get the outcome? And then I can add urgency and add emotion. So what do you need to do to ensure that you get the outcome so you can? Okay, what do you need to do that? So when you go to bed tonight, creating like a visualization pattern, because everyone always thinks about their problems at night before they go to bed. So last night they thought about it. Are they going to think about it tonight? Or are they going to go to bed with the knowledge that they're actually taking the actions required to get the outcomes? And so I just add visualizations and stuff like that as we go. And it tends to stay relatively non-combative. And so it's an engaging conversation. And to be honest, I think like half of objection handling is just not running out of constructive things to say. And then you don't just go, well, I guess we'll schedule a follow-up because the person put you in a position where you feel cornered and you don't know where to go. So I never try and give binary choices. I always try and give large choices, but then lock the doors as I go. So the person has the perception of having any option available. However, I've already locked all the doors. So I know there's only 2 or 3 ways they're going to go. And so I know what to do and what to say through each door. Does that make sense?
Same. Yeah, I've got some cool analogies around that I'll share sometime. I've got a class. I got to prep a bit.
You got to go.
I was going to say we should end on that and be respectful of Eli's time.
Where can, I mean, not that people don't know, but where can people find you?
There's this thing called Facebook.
It's new.
Facebook. That's pretty much all I've done. This year, we'll have to talk sometime. I am going to do a YouTube thing, but Facebook, just my personal profile. I've got a free Facebook group. We're changing the name of it. Right now, it's Elite Level Influence, which stands for ELI. It's the worst name ever.
I like it.
It's cheesy.
Yeah,
but
I thought it was good.
But that's the thing. I'm actually doing a training in there in 3 minutes to the group. But yeah, just on Facebook is my thing. I'm behind on the social media game, and so we're dialing all that in like right now. So, but yeah, Facebook.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you very, very much. Everyone go check out Eli's stuff. He's extremely good at what he does. So thank you very much for coming on. Yeah, if you haven't, which you probably have, if you're listening to this podcast.
Thanks, much appreciated.
Thanks for coming, brother. You have a good day, dude.
Awesome. I'll catch up with you guys soon. See
you, mate. Bye.
All right, guys, that was our little episode with Eli. I hope you guys got something out of it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. I've had a look at the analytics and some of you fucks still haven't subscribed. So how about you go ahead and be congruent and get on that. If you want people to subscribe to you as a person, then you subscribe to me as a person.
If we get enough likes on this, we'll organize a part 2 with Eli, because I feel like there was a lot of doors that hadn't even been opened yet.
Well, we chatted for like 15 minutes before we hit record.
Right. All the good stuff you guys missed out, so I do apologize. But I think we'll have to organize a part 2.
Yeah, don't forget to go to the Facebook group, go to the closing code if you want to sign up and give us some cash. It's $25 for the first week. Funny story, Eli's actually in that program, so he was one of the first guys to sign up, and he's still doing it too. So there you go. I don't even know if he knows, but he is. So all right, guys. Thanks for coming, and have a great day.
See ya. Bye.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.